When you were hired as a cinematographer on your first film, how prepared were you that first day?
I think the first live action film I shot was for a guy called Roy Cannon, who was Stanley Kubrick's prop master on 2001. And he had this little dark noir murder mystery that he wanted to shoot. So we shot in a three-story walk-up in London. And you know, I have to say, ignorance or arrogance, I don't know which it was. You know, it's like I knew how to load an Ariflex, and I had a couple of sun guns, which are handheld lights, and I knew how to read an exposure meter, and I said, I could do this. You know? And so that was the first live action film I shot as a DP for somebody else. You know, I obviously shot stuff for myself for growing up, but you know, that was the first. So I was probably very unprepared, you know, but I seem to have a natural bent for it, you know. And then the next live action feature that I shot was for a friend that he was making kind of a music movie. And so it was it was a very bizarre, it was like a long music video. And I shot that, and I had a knack for moving people into lighting that was really good. So I don't think I used a light on that movie, but I was able to move the action of the movie into really great lighting situations and shoot with natural light. And everybody looked at the footage and say, hey, this is really great. It looks so natural and you know, alive, you know. And that's because it was, you know. So it wasn't until much later that I learned about lighting. And then I think as I learned about lighting, I think my work got worse. In terms of it had a very kind of lit look to it. And then once I'd mastered those tools, I was able to use those same tools to create very naturalistic lighting, but with artificial sources. So there was a progression there, but luckily I never screwed up bad enough not to get the next gig, so you know.
So the old saying, you need to know the rules before you can break them kind of thing applies to the lighting?
Yes, I think so. But also I think the lesson I learned that I tell people that ask me what they should do is, you know, should I get a job as a loader and then be an assistant cameraman and then be an operator and then be a DP? And my answer is that if you want to be a DP, that you go ahead and be a DP and start shooting, and you know, learn from what you see from your results, and you're probably going to find a level as you work your way up that you're good enough for a particular project, you know. But I think taking the bit by the horns and saying I'm going to do this job, and just try your hardest every opportunity that you get to shoot. Then that was my path, not the conventional path, you know.
At what point in your career and which project where you headed off to set and you realized, wow, this is I need to be really prepared, I can't mess up, and then it might have gotten in your head a little bit because the stakes were higher? You know, everybody kind of hopes to get to a certain point, and then there's a new problem of, wow, no, there's all this pressure on you.
Right. I think the most pressure I ever felt was I did a project called The Incredible Shrinking Woman, which was a movie with Lily Tomlin, and I decided to do all the visual effects. I was the visual effects director and the director of photography, and I decided to do all the effects as rear projection and front projection, which is a technique where you shoot the actors in front of live live plates that are being projected. So once you send that film to the lab, you're done. There's no optical process, there's no post-process to that footage. And I was kind of out on a limb with that. So I was using equipment that hadn't been used for a long time, which was VistaVision rear projectors and front projection equipment. And I think there was a time when that process wasn't going really well, you know, and I felt that I felt scared that the process wasn't going to come together, you know, but it did. So it paid off, you know. But I think I don't think there's ever a day that I go to work. If I wake up for a shoot day and I'm not nervous, or I haven't had a shiftless night the night before, you know, then there's something wrong. I'm not doing my job, you know. So it's always been very stressful, because if you're not stressed, then I don't think you're doing your job, you know.
That's a great point, because I feel like now, especially in the kind of current state, there's like this "I got this" mentality, and it's almost considered a negative, I feel like, to some people, to show or to be nervous. And I'm not talking about fumbling and shaking and, you know, tripping over yourself nervous, but
right.
Just to have some humanity to it. And you know, it almost seems like now there's a new breed of mindset, any generation, of just sort of this "I got this" and yeah, I'm fine.
Well, I think in a lot of people's work that I see these days that are kind of up and coming, there's a bunch of stuff that they don't know that they don't know. So they've got what they think is required, but if you're going to take it to a higher art form, there's a lot more that you need to know in order to get there. But I think it's a combination. You've got to have that. You got to have that attitude that, you know, I can do this. This is going to be great. But you've also got to have the, you know, you've got to know realistically what your problems are going to be, and to do everything that you can to overcome those. So I think it's a combination of the two things, you know.